when we're talking the big games of week 3, you have to start number 1 Red Bank Catholic heading to the Swamp against number 3 Middletown South. Another monster. I feel like this is like American Division Digest, but another monster game in that division. And you're talking like all shore caliber players all over the field, both sides for both teams. Let's start with, how do you see Middletown South's defense, which has been excellent so far, led by Colin Gallagher, trying to slow down the RBC offense?
I'm very excited to see the matchup there. Middletown South flies to the football. There's always a different guy that kind of has a good game every week. They're a traditional power. I think that they'll be able to give them some. I think they'll be able to give them a tough game. I really do, defensively, and if they can run the football, I could see that being a 13-7 game going into the third quarter. I really could.
Right, I just feel like Frankie Williams so far has been relatively protected back there throwing the ball. South's whole thing is bringing pressure from all angles at quarterbacks, making them make a throw with someone coming right down their throat. So I think like that to me is a big question to, will they be able to get pressure on him and slow down those wideouts? Rahman, Ross, 2 of the best wideout receivers in the Shore Conference. And we haven't seen, RBC has had solid games on the ground, but hasn't really like pounded a team just yet with Sabino Portella and Torrin Harmon and those guys. So we'll see if they're able to establish that early. But, South kind of prides themselves on stopping the run game, making you one-dimensional, and then coming after you, throwing the ball. But, this is one of those games where when it comes time for all shore time and you're picking the teams and you're going, especially with the linemen on both sides of the ball, some great linemen going head-to-head on either side of the ball here. And whoever wins that battle up front, that's one of those things where you look back and how you just, if you're splitting hairs and deciding, is this guy first team all shore or second, it might be the matchups head-to-head in a game like this.
I don't think Red Bank Catholic is going to divide their reps evenly this game with all their players. I think you might see a little more dose of Emmanuel Ross, Najee Rahman, maybe Portella, Harmon getting the ball a little bit more. Nobody's really kind of absorbed the brunt of the offense yet.
Now, let's go to the other side. How do you see RBC's defense slowing down an offense that has been like second half magic so far the last
couple well, I think they'll be okay with that. Middletown South ain't going to blow you out. They're going to keep you they're going to stay in the game with moving the chains and playing good defense and getting that first down. But the second half, they've been wearing people out. Now, I don't know if they could do that to Red Bank Catholic, but I do believe that it's going to be a bunch of stalemate plays on both sides of the football. Good defense. I love it.
Well, I guess if RBC's winning at halftime, South will be like, we got them right where we want
them. Yeah. Well, they were down by 2 touchdowns. And
they've been losing at halftime, I think, both games so far. And offensive coordinator Joe Trezza has just been able to work out the wrinkles, and they get out there and make the plays when they have to in the second half. I would not advise getting down big to RBC at halftime, though. It's not a good idea as far as any kind of comeback is concerned.
No. Yeah. How about the second game?
Yeah, another American Division throwdown. At this point, Donovan Catholic's defense has just been so dominant. It'll be a question of, can Manalapan even put enough points on the board to get this win, even if they do a great job against because Manalapan's defense has also been excellent. So if they can do a good job against slowing down a Donovan team full of playmakers, is that going to be enough? Because are they going to be able to muster? Although I guess they always have special teams, right? They could always score on a punt or a kickoff return. But yeah, to me, this is I think a statement type game for Donovan Catholic to separate themselves in this American Division even further as one of the top contenders. For Manalapan, I think the hardest thing too is you just had a grueling emotional loss, and you can't dwell on it against Middletown South. Like, Donovan Catholic is too good. You can't sleepwalk through a half, or the game will be over.
I was going to say that they lost a heartbreaking game, and sometimes it's hard to get up for that second game. And Donovan's coming in looking really good last week, and boy, they're fast. Their defense is fast, big and fast. So Manalapan playing on the road too. So they got a big hole right now going. But I like the quarterback play of both Nick Heckel, a first year player, and Todd Lamberson, a first year player. They're both doing a really nice job.
And I think they're both going to probably have to make plays throwing the ball because these defenses are so good that it's going to be really hard to just line up with Najee Calhoun for Donovan Catholic and then, Manalapan's run game to just run it down their throat. So I think both of those guys are going to have to make some throws under pressure in that game. We're going to find out, I think, a lot more about both of those quarterbacks in a game like this.
Yeah, new stars are coming out every week for both those teams. But again, Manalapan with their special teams is a threat. Donovan Catholic has that star caliber receiver, Michael Thomas III, along with that big line that they have and an outstanding defense. It's two good teams. Two good teams that are going to be going deep in the playoffs at the end of the year playing week 3.
And this is a game where I could see Michael Thomas being a big factor. If all things are somewhat even and he comes down with another crazy catch in traffic or, makes just some unbelievable dazzling play, that could be the difference in a game like this.
They just run the shovel to him, the flip it, the jet sweep, and do it. So he can get
open.
They
have a lot of weapons. That they're just a really deep, varied team. I would certainly our rankings say it, but you would consider them the favorite coming into this game. And the question is whether, to me, Manalapan can muster enough offense to pull this one out.
I'm gonna, Coach Dom Lepore has got a, tough one. Get the team back up to play. There is no pauses in their schedule.
Right.
And they just lost.
I've always thought that's such a tough thing for your depth. If somebody gets hurt or you lose a key guy, you don't have that week or two of easy games where maybe you can cruise through and then get that guy back in the lineup. It's like it's going to be glaring because you're going to need these people and then it's just so rough and tumble and so physical in that division. By the time you get to the state playoffs, are you all beat up or do you have enough for a postseason run or not?
Yep.
That's always the question.
You got to get them up, get them in a away game. They just lost a very emotional game that they could have won. And and Donovan Catholic is really I don't think Donovan Catholic and Red Bank Catholic are looking at each other saying we're playing the next week because you got Manalapan and Middletown South saying, wait a minute, we're no trap game. Don't call us a trap game. But to the public out there, is it a distraction or not? Who knows? You're talking about 15, 16, 17-year-old kids. You never know.
Well, you talk about a team coming off a tough game that has to bounce back immediately. Manasquan, after that, really losing 39-13 to Point Borough in a hyped-up, huge game. They have to come back. They're at home. Obviously, they always play great at Big Caboo Warrior Field.
Mm-hmm.
They got to face Raritan, who's off to a 2-0 start, coming off a real solid win against Monmouth Regional. And to me, that's, again, if Raritan is going to set up a potential championship game with Point Borough for that division title, they have to have this game. So this is huge for the Rockets because you got to get over the hump on the road in a really tough place to play against a very motivated team looking to shake off last week. How do you see this game? Obviously, the Manasquan has an experienced quarterback in Brett Patton coming off a tough outing. Raritan has a brand new quarterback, Logan Goldsberry, who's played well so far, but hasn't played in a game maybe of this magnitude in this kind of atmosphere just yet. Although, Raritan has a great home atmosphere, but I'm talking about on the road like this. And Raritan traditionally plays Friday nights. So it's going to be an adjustment. Was that a thing as a coach if you normally played Friday and you had to play a Saturday game?
Yeah, it is because you're talking about kids. They're in routines. Now, all of a sudden, the routine is now it's Saturday. You get an extended day to practice. You got to wake up early on a weekend to play a football game. Yeah, I'm not going to fool you. It is a big difference. Playing Manasquan at their place is going to be a difficult game. But Raritan's been very quiet in terms of the rankings. They're quietly moving up the ranks. They're number 10 now.
I think that's the thing. They're coming off a season where they made a sectional final. They returned one of the short conference top running backs in Kieran Falzone. So they have guys. Dan Calcari, another great all-around player. But I think the thing with them was they haven't had that big game yet. They started with a Madawan team that's young, improving, but Raritan was the favorite in that game. They get the win over Monmouth Regional, who showed something certainly in week one against Red Bank Regional. But this to me is the first real gauge of like how good is Raritan, because Manasquan, like anything else, is a measuring stick. Are you on their level or are you not? So, and Manasquan got a tough game out of their system. So I just think that we'll find out a lot on Saturday. I guess, how do you see Manasquan bouncing back after that?
Last year it was a shootout, 30-something to 30-something. Nobody stopped anybody.
And Raritan was leading that game by a lot in the second half. Swan came roaring back. I think sent it to overtime. So that Raritan won't forget that either. If they get up by a little, you can't take the foot off the gas pedal against Manasquan, especially in Manasquan.
Well, again, I mean, if you're just an average fan and you're going to be down on Manasquan after playing Point Borough and Patton was definitely not feeling right, I mean, you're going to lose a lot of money because Brett Patton is an all-shore quarterback. He's a top pocket quarterback in the Shore Conference. Jameer Howard, they moved all around. You saw it. He was playing receiver, running back.
My question is, after seeing what Point Borough just did to them with the run game, now you're facing a Raritan team that runs the triple option, has a tremendous tailback, and another really good slot back. Will they be able to stop that Raritan run game?
Well, you're right about that. But to mimic another team that's kind of at a level like this is tough. But yeah, Raritan's got a bunch of good players coming back too. Danny Calicari, Matagor, Kieran Falzone. There's a lot of star power on that field and two playoff power teams. I don't know. I think that's a toss-up. I think that game is a total toss-up.
I think that's going to be a great game. And traditionally, when those teams have played, particularly at that field, I remember years ago. I mean, for years, Raritan had never beaten them on that field.
Right.
And I remember years ago when they finally did, they took a scoop of the dirt from the field and put it in a bag of like, we finally did it. We finally got them on this field. But that also goes to the respect level for Manasquan.
Right.
When you beat them at their place, it's a special thing for a lot of programs. But yeah, I mean, Jameer Howard, I think he'll come back even stronger after last week. Again, I think he and Patton, they just never really got in sync. So we'll see. But yeah, that to me is because if Manasquan wins that game, then it almost, I don't want to say the division race is over.
Yeah.
But it puts Point Borough definitely in the driver's seat by far.
Yeah, but don't count out Manasquan if the winner loses game.
And then an interesting game. Two perennially tough top 10 programs that are both winless so far. Wall at Rumson, another American Division showdown. Wall just 0-1 because they just played their first game against RBC.
Yep.
Rumson now 0-2. I mean, Rumson probably hasn't been 0-3 since the 90s. So, that to me is a season's going two different directions kind of game.
Even though they're playing a tough schedule, again, we're going to say it again, they're kids. And kids are not used to, or they are used to winning or losing. And that could be something that they might not be able to shake, but we'll see.
Both of those teams combined for 3 points last week. So both of those offenses are going to look to try to get on track.
Yeah.
After both seeing two of the best defenses in the Shore last week.
Yeah, I mean, again, the AD's putting everybody into one division. This is what you're at. Wall Rumson are battling for their first win.
You could be the last place team in that division and probably be the division champ in some of the other divisions.
Tom River North last year was last in the division, and they went to the state finals.
Right.
So figure that. But I don't know what to take with Rumson because Rumson has a bunch of inexperienced guys, but you keep saying they're Rumson, and they're going to be able to, talking to the coaches that played against them said Rumson's going to win a lot of games this year. You watch. They just had tough games. North and Donovan Catholic.
Yeah. No, a lot. I mean, almost the entire Shore Conference would be 0-2 playing those.
Yeah, I would say.
You know what I mean? Like, who wouldn't be 0-2 other than maybe one or two other teams, if that? So, yeah, it looks like, oh my God, they're 0-2, but yeah, because of who they played. That's why you see the coaches still showing them the respect of, like, they consider them a top 10 team, even though they haven't won a game yet, just because of the caliber of opposition.
I'm really excited to see Eddie Guerreri come out in his second game. He showed that they were going to play tough defense and they were going to be physical against a Red Bank Catholic team. Now they're going against Rumson. They got guys. Wall's better than you want them to be. So They're going to
And
run
Wall's
power.
had some history in the state playoffs with Rumson the past few
Mm-hmm.
seasons. It's kind of become a nice little rivalry kind of game there as far as them clashing in the postseason. Another game I'm looking forward to just for quarterback star power,
Mm-hmm.
Brick Memorial and Ocean.
Connor Dietz, Tyler Douglas, two best or one of the two best um, dual threat quarterbacks. They're exciting. One's a junior, one's a senior. Connor Dietz, 449 yards offense last week, and Tyler Douglas just had another huge game again right there. I can't wait. I will be at that game. I will be at that game. I'm excited to see those guys. But in that game, it's gonna. I'm curious to see what other player rises. Is it going to be Mateo Andrews? Is it going to be Crispin from Brick Memorial?
Yeah, I really liked Crispin when I saw him
Yeah.
against Jackson Memorial in their season opener. He gets a lot of separation down the field at wide receiver, where he can get 2 or 3 steps on a guy, and if the ball's there, he's gone. So he's a real weapon in the deep passing game.
Scott, what's interesting, what people don't realize is that they're doing a lot of RPOs, both teams. They have pre-snap reads, they have post-snap reads, and they're facilitating the football. And as you can see, they're moving the football with different people, but the quarterback is orchestrating the whole thing. They might be reading a might linebacker, maybe a 3 technique, maybe an outside edge guy. Screens are open, sling it. So both coaches do a great job getting the football in the right person's hand in the right spots with those.
Well, and honestly, I think this is probably one of those, recruiting type games. If you're Connor Dietz, you're thinking, well, all eyes are on Douglas. He's committed to Temple. This film will be seen by a lot of people. Obviously, he cares more about the win for his team. But hey, if he shows out in a game that a lot of college coaches might be checking out, that can't hurt his cause.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big game for both teams. In a division, Shane Garrett is another guy that's getting looked at by all those colleges as a defensive lineman, also a tight end or an athlete right there. So, Brick Memorial beat Ocean Township last year. Okay,
Right.
People quickly forgot about that, but now Ocean is ranked higher than him and had all the hype, and Brick Memorial won last year. So remember that.
Yeah, and one other game that caught my eye was in the Independence Division, Monmouth Regional at St. John Vianney. Vianney's now won 2 in a row. Monmouth had the tough loss, but wasn't at necessarily full power. When you're talking state playoffs, as far as the division, who knows for those teams? They're the underdogs to Point Borough. But to me, that's a crucial game when you look back as far as your seeding or even qualifying for the state playoffs. That seems like a big game to me.
Julian Jones is looking dynamic. The running back. They didn't play with Anthony Jen. I don't know exactly why he didn't play. I'm hoping he will play because he's having a great preseason and he had a great week 1. But Kyle Verest, it looks like he's adapting to the new offense, running the football, and by the way, catching a football, which he's one of the best.
Yeah, he's been everywhere. I mean, he's another one of those sort of do-it-all players, and he's been clutch. When they've needed big plays in the second half, because their last 2 games have been really close. He's been right there, in the middle of every time.
I give a lot of credit to Coach Papkin and the staff because you play your first game. I mean, everybody was like, "Why are you playing RBC?" They lost quite handily, but they came back the last 2 weeks, and to right now, they're looking at maybe 3-1.
Yeah, no, and again, I think in a way though that may have helped them playing RBC because you play them and you're like, we're not going to see probably not going to see a better team than that the rest of the regular season, until the state playoffs. So, everything else doesn't seem as intense or overwhelming after you see a team like that in the first game. All right, when we're talking the rest of the games here from week 3, real quick, Toms River North, number 2 team at home against Central. You got to think another game on their way to the Colonial Division title, I would think.
Micah Ford, is he rolling or what? He's putting up some John Madden stats. He really is, man. He's looking really good. And Coach Oz has a lot of weapons there. Playing a Central team that's kind of injured. They got 3 dudes that are injured. The coaches have to be more creative, which they have been. They're doing a nice job keeping it together. But Central's got their three dudes out against a tough Toms River North team on the road.
And then staying in that division, Middletown North with Sheehan coming off a nice win over Central. They're now heading to Lacey, which is still searching for its first victory.
Yeah, I'm curious to see that. Last year was a wild game. Of course, Lacey was a veteran football team, and they came out victorious at the end. But Luke Sheehan is no joke. I mean, he's the real deal. Big, strong quarterback in a great system. I think he's going to have another big day against Lacey Township.
And then also staying in the one other game in that division is Long Branch coming off a big win over Lacey, heading. Gosh, how far is the bus ride from Long Branch to
Yeah,
exit 63 there for Southern Regional?
Yeah, you're right. And it's going to be a hostile environment. Southern does a great job with the atmosphere there. Chucky Jr. Does a great job there playing Long Branch. I'm going to tell you right now, don't be surprised if Southern's in this football game to the end because they play good defense. They have a young group of guys, a very talented sophomore class. I think they play around 5 sophomores, Southern Regional, against a Long Branch team that is looking good, but they're playing away now for the first time.
And then we'll go into the Constitution Division. We talked about the changes Howell made last week. It'll be interesting to see them now from the opening snap here at Freehold Township in the Constitution Division. And Township coming off a tough game.
Yeah, all those Freehold Township School District teams, when they play each other, they all have this, they know each other. And when you know each other, they're excited and they can't wait to play each other.
Plus Corey Davies, the head coach of Township, going against a team where he was the longtime successful head coach that led them to a state title at Howell.
Yeah, and we said this before about Freehold Township. When they have an off game, the next week they bounce back. And this would be another great way for Corey to bounce back against a very good Howell football team.
Yeah, and I think Howell needs this game to keep pace in the division race in case anyone else slips up. Maybe you can get yourself a tie for the title, something like that.
Howell needs this game. Yep, Howell needs this game.
And then Jackson Memorial, who I would consider one of the front runners in that division, welcoming Colts Neck to the jungle. Colts Neck coming off a big win, 50 points on Freehold Borough, but this taking a big step up in competition now against Jackson.
Yeah, this is 2 evenly matched teams, 2 physical teams. I think Jackson might be slightly more athletic on the perimeter, but this is a very winnable game for Colts Neck. But if Jackson wins, I think Jackson may be back to their olden days, being 3-0 and being ranked pretty high, bringing back some memories of those good football teams at Jackson.
And you talk about 2, long established programs in the Shore Conference. In the Freedom Division, Brick at Neptune. Neptune's still searching for that first victory after a couple lopsided losses against good teams. Brick coming off a win.
Yeah, Brick cannot have a drop game and lose to Neptune. They're playing them on the road. When you thought Brick was down 2 weeks ago, what they do? They beat Tom River South in an emotional, traditional rivalry game. Now they got Neptune. Neptune's got some talent with Devon Kraft and Banks, one of the better linemen in the Shore. So this is a must-win for Neptune and Brick. If they win this game, they're going to be sitting pretty good with a very, very young football team.
And speaking of must wins, RBR, Red Bank Regional, off to an 0-2 start, and they're at home against Toms River South, also coming off a loss. This feels like one of those games, again, where your season, you get the win, your season's still alive, you're still into it. You don't. If you're Red Bank, you're 0-3, and now you're really in kind of panic mode as far as like your playoff chances and all the rest of that are concerned.
Correct. Red Bank is very explosive football team. They got the horses, and it's going to take that one win to get them going for the season.
Defensively, that's where they've struggled the first couple of weeks. So if they can shore that area up, they can help turn things around.
Yeah, Tom River South hasn't been very explosive offensively yet this year, so this might help Red Bank. But if Red Bank takes the lead early, it could be pretty beneficial for their team.
And Homedale is going to be looking for their first win. And the bad news, Point Pleasant Borough is coming to town after a just dominating win against Manasquan. I mean, that's a really tall order for Homedale. I guess the main thing you could hope for is a letdown, but being around that Point Borough team, it doesn't seem like the type of team that can get caught in a letdown.
I don't think those coaches are going to allow a letdown at Homedale. Homedale has a different style of football too. They're very physical, run an unorthodox type of veer Almost similar to what Point Borough does in a way. But the clock will be running in that game. There won't be a lot of drop passes. Just like unlike last week, it was so long. With all the injuries, if there's no injuries in this game, it's going to go quick because there's going to be a lot of running and a lot of good physical football being played in that game.
All right, and then we'll go down to your neck of the woods there in Ocean County. We got Jackson Liberty at Barnegat. Barnegat coming off it was a win, 7-6.
Well,
they're playing Jackson Liberty at home, and that's an old B South rivalry that they played. Those teams played together against each other for years, and Liberty coming off a tough one.
I don't know what to take with it's too early with Liberty. I don't know. They beat Keensburg and then lost to Manalapan. So they won a blowout game. They got blown out in the other one. Barnegat's got star power with Jojo Bivens. It's home. They're always tough to play at home, and there's no such thing as an ugly win when you think back at it. A win's a win, right?
Exactly. And Manchester looking for the rare 3-0 start. They're 2-0 for the first time in 5 years. They're at home against another young team looking to make a name for themselves in Manalapan.
I mean, it's going to be exciting in the stands at Manchester. Like you said, I don't think they've been 3-0. I don't know if it was when was the last time they were in 3-0. I don't know if they ever were 3-0 or was Wilkie 2 years ago 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, it's very rare that they've had. I mean, this is a program that has barely experienced the state playoffs in its entire history. So, this would be big to get to 3-0 for them.
Playing Manasquan, who now just jumped into the top 20, has looked good.
And Manasquan's dangerous. They gave Raritan a scare on opening night and then picked up a win last week. So, they seem like they're young and hungry and improving. So, they would love nothing more than go down there and to spoil this whole Manchester.
You know who I'm very curious about next week is Pinelands and East, and I'm going to tell you why. Pinelands played real well at Barnegat. Coulda, shoulda won according to them. 7-6 game, touchdown call back. Stopped JoJo Bivens. Playing against a Toms River East team on the road who just lost to Manchester. Are they going to turn it around and bounce back East? They lost 2 tough games. They lost to the rival South at the end, and then lost to Manchester last week. So this is a big game for both programs to see where their identity of their team is.
And speaking of another big game as far as the importance of a great start, similar to Manchester, Marlborough hosting a young Freehold Borough team looking to go to 3-0 themselves for the second straight year. They're the heavy favorite in that game. Freehold Borough's really struggled their first 2 games. I mean, this is a great opportunity to just kind of keep building the momentum if you're the Mustangs.
Yeah, they're looking good. They're playing great defense, and they're running the football. When you have that mix, and A.J. Schwartz is very efficient throwing the football on sprints to Ryan, to Mendez, they look good. They're really focused, and they have experience. So I don't see them falling this week.
Right. They seem to definitely be a team on a mission, to set up that big game, to clinch playoff berths, to make a run at division title, all that. But obviously, you can't overlook Freehold. You have to handle your business.
And Point Beach, and Keyport just won a big win last week against Asbury Park. And Point Beach is a team that everybody keeps talking about. They're going to be the most improved team in the Shore Conference. They played a tough game against Pinelands. And think of that. They played Pinelands, lost 19-14 on the road. And then
they were trailing the game, against Keensburg there early and came roaring back in that.
And then this is a key game for. Going 2-1 or going 1-2 is a huge turn in your record. It really, really is. And Shore playing Keensburg, I think Shore is going to be a state playoff contender type team playing against a Keensburg team that has a lot of key players that they lost last year for Coach Reed. It's never good to go against a Casatino team when they're starting to roll, and they rolled last week.
They got the win over Lakewood to kind of right the ship a little bit, and I think this is where they're looking to start to rattle off a bunch of wins in a row.
I have one question though: who is Camden Mastery Charter?
I thought you were going to give me a detailed breakdown of that game, of their roster and everyone they have for the big Lakewood game.
I don't even think they're in the GPS.
Camden Mastery Charter. Yeah,
I'm
That's a
going to
new
tell you
one. I
right now,
can't
though.
say that's really been on my radar.
When my
Hopefully the Piners get a win, right? I mean, that a team like that, they're a team that struggled with numbers
yeah.
and things like that the last couple of years. They always have some players. You saw them in the season opener against Manchester. They were winning early on. So yeah, that's just a game where like, hey, let's get in the win column. Let's feel good about ourselves. And move
Well, if one of our guys on our staff picks Camden Mastery Charter, I'm going to question them. Well, that was a good take on this week three's games. I appreciate it. A lot of football to be played, and I can't wait to see where the chips fall and all where the storylines will lead us to next week in our talk show.